Yeah, thanks, Don. I'm sorry. Go ahead and I got it. Recording is in progress. So welcome to our October 6th GMAC meeting. We continue to do things online. So for the record, I'll read our resolution into the record here. Resolution of the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council authorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the Gualala Municipal Advisory Council pursuant to the Ralph M. Brown Act. So we do it at the beginning of every meeting and we take a voice vote on that to approve that.
No, I make a motion that we accept it.
You make a motion that we accept that. And a second?
Aye. I'll second that.
Okay, I heard Dan say it first, so we have a second. So I'll go down our list, starting with Melissa.
Aye.
Don.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
And no Kevin yet. Robert. Aye. That's it, huh? Okay. Introductions and announcements. We heard from Henry, our council member, that he will not be present. And I know Don is in Montana, so thank you for handling the Zoom meeting from afar, Don. Consent agenda. We have the approval of the minutes from September 1st. The action minutes look very good, Mary. Thank you on that. Let's make a motion on the minutes from September.
Move to accept.
Okay, there's Kevin. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, Robert.
Hi there. So we have a motion to accept the September 1st GMAC meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
You'll second that. Okay. Let's take a vote on those action minutes. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Robert? Aye. So we're down to correspondence. We have two items there, the various coastal community surveys that we've been receiving. We probably have a count on those, but we probably will review that when we get down to item 7B, I suppose. Okay. And Sonoma County Permit and Resource Management regarding the local coastal plan meeting on October 4th. That was yesterday or day before. So on to 3C, approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Anybody want to make a motion on approving tonight's meeting agenda?
Also move.
Okay, Kevin moves. Do we have a second? Dan seconds?
Yep.
Okay, let's vote on that. Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Don's there, okay. Dan?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Robert? Aye. Okay, so we're down to public input. So I think that's where a Rotary would like to speak to us. You have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ann Patterson, and I'm president of Gualala Rotary. And I want to also introduce Dr. Martin Trieb, who's here with me as part of Gualala Rotary as well. And we just wanted to introduce ourselves and let you know that we received a small grant that we'll be putting money into. It's actually a matching grant. And it's a one-time, once-a-year grant where our local Rotary can select a project, a one-time project. And we wanted to offer assistance with signage. I know that's probably a topic that's been much discussed over the years and continues to be, but something we would like to do. Rotary, across the nation is really wonderful at doing signage for communities, that it's attractive and fits in with the community spirit and design. And so we'd like to offer our assistance in that way. We had initially thought and are talking with RCMS about the possibility of community signage that would be of benefit to visitors and residents as well. So we're just starting now. We're really in the place of needs assessment, and we know that your guidance and partnership will be really important. So we just want to introduce ourselves and let you know that we're here, and we'd like to work with you and keep you posted as to what we're doing. Is there anything you would add to that, Dr. Trebe?
No, I just think it's very important that the people going through Gualala know where RCMS is. And I think there's a real paucity of signage to direct you to RCMS. And if it's an emergency, I think it's important to know where you have to go. You don't want to be looking, a lot of us older people don't use GPS as well as we should. But I think a sign would be very helpful that you could see coming from both directions to up Ocean Avenue to the RCMS facility.
Great. So that's it
Okay.
from us. We want to just see if you have any, I know this is public comment, and but also wanted to see if you had any direction for us or suggestions for us.
Well, it is public expression, so just continue to communicate with us, and we will communicate back. There is some kind of signage for RCMS at the present time, I believe, right? So we have to work through Caltrans and the county on those kind of things. So,
Right.
but that's all we really can do during public input. But
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
unless it becomes a public, unless it becomes an agenda item at some point. But we'll
Understand.
carry a question and then we'll
Yes.
okay.
Is this for like RCMS and the ambulance, I mean, yeah, ambulance and the fire district, et cetera? Or
No.
is this, or the firehouse, or is it for businesses to embetter their signage, their present signage now?
It's to direct people to get to the medical facility. And
I
think
see.
it has nothing to do with any other business but that.
Okay, I
So
just had
that's
to take
the
a,
only one you're doing. Okay,
Okay.
we have the blue sign there right now.
Ambulance.
Ambulance, that's what that is. Okay. Well, let's work on that. Thank you for presenting that to us. Okay.
Welcome.
Great. Good to be here. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Okay. Any other public expression this evening on non-agenda items? Okay, then we'll continue on with our next agenda item, which is our report from law enforcement. And Matt Kendall, our sheriff, usually takes the floor at this point.
I am here. Thank you so much for having me this evening. So I've got just a few things to go over that are just kind of high level stuff. Hopefully, and we're still in the works on this, I'm going to be hiring 6 new corrections officers on October 31st, which is a big deal for me because that's about 12% of my corrections force. We've been really, really low in those numbers, and a lot of the work that we've been doing, where we've been doing a lot of outreach, that's beginning to pay off. We also have some deputy sheriffs in the pipe. They are not through backgrounds and psychological evals yet, and so I don't want to announce that I'm hiring them because I don't want to jinx myself. I've been working on reclassifying in some new positions that will kind of take the load off of some of my old positions, because with the new mandates that are coming down from the state, there's a lot of reporting requirements and whatnot, and a lot of this stuff is data entry. I do not want to pay deputy sheriffs to sit for hours entering data into a computer. One of these hires is I've hired a coroner's technician who's going to serve under the chief deputy coroner, because there's a lot of forms, paperwork, things like that that would normally be done by a deputy sheriff. That young lady's been doing a really good job for us, and she's freed up a lot of the time for our deputy sheriffs to be concentrating on patrolling and making sure that the neighborhoods are safe. We had that horrific murder this weekend, so all of us are a little tired. We had a homicide that occurred somewhere between Laytonville and Potter Valley, and we were able to make an arrest on that. That will be forthcoming. This year, CAL FIRE and the Sheriff's Office, the fire safe councils in our local fire departments have been working really, really well together. And I hope that everybody can appreciate the good year that we've had as far as fire. This is the first year in a long time when we have not had some horrific incidents. I'm going to be putting out an address on Friday tomorrow, talking about some of the things that we've done really well and some of the things that we need to keep after so we can do the best job that we possibly can. We are beginning to see some homes being abandoned in the north. And I want to just put a plug out to everybody here. If we have abandoned homes in a neighborhood, they become very bad things. In the collapse of the market, 2008 through 2012, we had a lot of houses standing that had bank foreclosures and things like that. And a lot of evil things happen in those. So if you see those, please pick up the phone and call us. Get a hold of me, get a hold of my dispatch. If you see anybody going in and out of an abandoned house, it doesn't happen as much down on the South Coast as what it does up in the North area. However, it still does happen. And we need to work with building and planning, environmental health, things like that to make sure that this place doesn't become a fire trap, that it doesn't become a location where people are using drugs or things like that happen. Let's see. Oh, myself and the fellas who have been raising the honeybees over at the jail, we extracted honey the other night.
All right.
And I was, being the somewhat lazy guy that I am in the evenings, I took my honey supers from my house because I wanted them to be able to extract a lot of honey. And so we did them all together. And I got to tell you, those fellas had the best time because they have been on this program since inception. They've been working and taking care of the bees and doing all of the things that they needed to do. And so we extracted almost 7 gallons of honey, and I was the only one who got stung. And out of my entire crew, and the rule is nobody gets to cry, but boys, nobody gets to laugh either. Well, they all laughed at me. I got stung right between the eyes, and they had so much fun with that and luckily I didn't swell up real bad. However, our inmate services coordinator, she's going to be providing some of that honey to the kitchen over there so that they can cook with it. And those fellas asked me, hey, can we take some honey back to the mods with us? And I said, no, because you'll make meat out of it. And they said, what makes you think we do that? And I said, because that's exactly what I do. And they said, yeah, you're right. We were going to make meat out of it. Anyway, they had a heck of a good time. They really did. And I think that they felt pretty good about the work that they had done, and they should be proud of it because they did some excellent work. I wanted to talk, I had a couple of questions after you guys had Don and Robert contacted me about the meeting with Senator McGuire and those folks down there. I had a couple of questions about why I sent, a handful of deputy sheriffs down there. And I just wanted to let everybody know, for the past few years, some of these political meetings, people have showed up and been pretty ornery and disrespectful of not only our political leaders, but also their wives and families. And, Jared Huffman almost always brings his wife with him when he travels, and she appreciates our presence at these things. My guys don't mind going down there at all. It's a good meeting with good people. And so some people questioned, why did you send deputy sheriffs down there? And it was because of some things that happened in Marin and Sonoma County. I don't want those happening here. We have good, peaceful gatherings, and we're going to keep it that way. So I just had 3 or 4 people question me about that. As we move forward, I'm going to be hiring a few more sheriff services technicians, and these folks are going to be doing some of the tasks that are taking up the deputies' times. It's a lot of the data entry is just getting to the point where it's not helping us. We're just feeding a machine, and I can hire people at a greatly reduced rate to feed the machine and make sure that these deputies are out on patrol and serving the public where they need to be. So I wanted to put a plug out there also. I need dispatchers, I need deputy sheriffs, I need corrections officers and professional staff. So if you can think of any young folks or people all the way up to my age, mid-50s. And Laura, go ahead.
Do you happen to know, so I grew up in this county, a lot of the folks that I know are, in the under 30 age group, and a lot of them are transitioning from, previous employment. I know that a lot of the corrections and sheriffs removed some of the requirements for previous cannabis use.
Mhm.
And I think it's like a time difference, right? It used to be like 5 years, I think was the last time you could use cannabis. Does that apply to the sheriff as well?
We don't have a hard and fast line on it.
Okay.
I've had some people who, when they were younger, they smoked some pot. They gave it up and they didn't do it again because, and let's face it, it's not for everybody. And I never look for perfect people because I'm sorry, you aren't going to find one. I look for people who made those mistakes at the point in life when they should have, and we all have, and then did not repeat those mistakes. I like the folks who learn from their mistakes, but you know what I like even better is the folks who learn from the mistakes of others, because none of us are going to live long enough to make them all ourselves. I mean, there's just too many to be made. We're starting to see a great big push in Mendocino County because the cannabis industry is collapsing in on itself. But there are a lot of folks who, you know, were working not in the industry, but working at spare time supply, driving a forklift. Those people are getting laid off. They were working at car lots where, you know, they were prepping cars and things like that, because we were selling a lot of cars in the fall when there was a lot of expendable income. And so there's a lot of people being laid off. And so we're having some people come back into the workforce. Now, are we where we need to be yet? No, but we will be, and we're going to continue on with this. But please go to the Sheriff's Office website, encourage all of your friends to click on that tab, and it'll take you right to County HR. You can fill out the application on there, and then we'll get a hold of you and walk you through the process.
And then just one follow-up question would be, I know you guys currently are in Ukiah, Willits, and Covelo stationed, right?
Ukiah, Willits, Fort Bragg, Covelo.
Ukiah, Willits, Fort Bragg, Covelo. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Mary, you have a question?
Mute.
You're muted, Mary.
I wanted you to be aware of Project APIS, APIS with an M. It's called Seeds for Bees. It's free. They are clover seeds that you put under your trees and they bloom. The bees go there, they pollinate the trees, they pollinate the clover, and clover is a high honey pollen. And I think it takes 5,000 trips for one bee to make one drop of honey. So you have a lot of trips by your bees represented that 7 or 8 gallons. But I just wanted you to know that these people are in Utah, Salt Lake City. But they do give seeds for bees and it is free. And if you will contact them, it's Project APISM. You might get seeds that you could put under your trees and make your bees very, very happy.
Yep, I'm aware of some of those things. When I was a young man, I worked for LaBallister's Feed and Seed in Sonoma County when I was going to the junior college down there. And so a lot of our woodgenellip and bird's foot trefoil clover are really high producing in honey. And where I live, I've got one pasture that I never mow the star thistle until after my bees are done. And it makes some of the best honey you've ever had. And my wife got a little snippy with me. When are you going to go out and mow that star thistle? This was a few years ago. And I said, do you like your honey? And at the end of the year, and we have star thistle and blackberry. I've got one pasture that's got quite a bit of clover, but I haven't been working that as much as I should. Well, by golly, this year, she was more than happy to let me let the star thistle stand until, you know, we got that rain the other day and I was able to go out and finally mow it. But those fellas were just so thrilled with their work, and they should be proud of themselves because they worked hard and they did a good job. And Lord knows I'm pretty proud of them.
Well, a lot of the seed companies will give free seeds to people who want it for butterflies and bees and other insects.
Yeah. Anna, did you have a question for me? Or were you stepping out? Dan?
Yeah, thanks. I was a dispatcher for 40 years and retired. And I just wanted to wish you good luck on finding them, because that is the hardest job to hire and retain that's out there in the law enforcement world.
We're doing really well right now. Now, my partner up in Lassen County, Sheriff Dean Grouden, he's gotten to the point where he may have to contract with the Highway Patrol. And it's frightening because I don't know, most folks don't realize it, but Highway Patrol has Golden Gate Dispatch, and then they have these other dispatch centers throughout the state. And sometimes when they transfer their calls over, the calls may go into Reading. They've got a great big hub up there, and then be dispatched out of Golden Gate. And you know, the bigger the bureaucracy, the more problems that come up. And,
yeah.
you know, when you don't have a dispatcher who knows where RCMS is and somebody's telling them it's next to RCMS, how are they going to tell somebody how to get there? You know, we do better in these small areas because we grew up here and we know what the issues are. And
Exactly.
that's super helpful.
Yeah, I had a call on a bear in a guy's yard in Grass Valley, and I was working in Davis, and it got transferred through CHP to the wrong comm center. And it was just like, okay.
You had 40 years in when you retired?
Yep. 40
Yeah.
years. I started when I was 20 and retired when I was 60.
Well, I'm just coming, I'm eking up on 33 years now. And believe it or not, when I get up in the morning, I'm reminded of a few things that I've done. And a lot of them, I did them in my 20s and I didn't remember them until I hit my 50s.
Yeah, and on a local topic, I just wanted to see what was going on with, you said you had a couple you were thinking of for resident deputies down here on the South Coast.
I got one young fella who's talked about it quite a bit. He's having a really hard time finding an affordable home down there. And, you know, the thing, he sold a home. He has a good down payment, but when you get into that $1 million range, oh my goodness, especially for a young person. And granted, these young people don't look at $1 million like I do because, you know, my brothers and I, we found the same penny and almost invented copper wire. That's how the Almighty made me. But some of the home prices down there, and don't get me wrong, it's because it's a beautiful place to live. It's a great place to work, but it's reflected in the price. It really is. And so he's still working on trying to find a place down there that he can purchase. He's done an excellent job for me. I would feel very good about making him a resident deputy because I think that this is one young man who has truly what it takes to be able to ingratiate himself into the community and treat people in the fashion that they should.
Well, we'll keep our eyes open for you.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Matt, have him contact me if I can help. I'll certainly try.
I appreciate that, Robert. I've
Okay.
got supper on at home. If there's no other questions for me, I'm going to go home and see my beautiful wife.
I have one small question.
Yeah, Melissa.
President Biden just announced that he's going to forgive all federal offenses for merely possession of marijuana.
Mhm.
Will you see any effects of that?
Probably not.
Okay.
And I don't know that I have ever seen in my entire career on the West Coast any federal filings for possession of marijuana in 33 years. Now, it may have happened on the East Coast. There may have been something that was pled down. However, in 33 years, I have never seen a federal filing for possession of marijuana, simple possession of marijuana. When I started, it was covered under 11357B of the Health and Safety Code, and it was $100 ticket. You could not be arrested for it.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, some of our legislation that came into play came in at a time where the legislators were just trying to stick it to groups of people. There was a portion of time in San Francisco, California, where it was against the law for a man to have a ponytail. And the reason behind that was they were trying to get rid of the Chinese. Okay, it's just a fact. It wasn't right, but it's the truth. And a lot of the marijuana laws were put into place in the 1920s because of Mexican immigrants.
They were put in place because William Randolph Hearst had the corner market on wood pulp paper and had the corner market on newspapers and had the corner market on congressmen and bought them all and said, I don't care how you do it or what lies you have to tell. You make hemp unusable as paper in this country because it's so much cheaper to grow as paper. And it doesn't matter because you can't smoke hemp. There's no THC in it.
Yeah. Well, that's not the case with the stuff that we're producing.
Mhm.
Holy
Oh, no,
smoke.
that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Hemp
I don't know if I'd call it
marijuana,
good.
hemp grown around marijuana renders the marijuana sterile.
Yeah.
It doesn't produce THC if it's grown next to hemp.
Well, I've got a buddy who lives back in Ohio, and he's been a farmer for years, and he told me that every piece of feral land in Ohio will eventually grow just patches of hemp, and he said it stinks and it's ugly and it's work to get it out of the ground.
Yep. And there's not enough for a crop.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be that hemp it was largest, we were the largest growers of hemp in the world, and it was used for ropes and for textiles and for all sorts of things. And Dow Chemical probably backed up Hearst because they wanted nylon and Orlon to become a big deal, and hemp clothing was something that that they didn't want, as well as hemp rope for
Yeah, 'cause it's too cheap.
maritime
It's
use.
too cheap to grow hemp. They can't make enough money.
And
Yeah.
once in a blue moon, you will still find a hemp rope in a garage sale. And believe it or not, every once in a while, somebody comes across one, and it's got to be 90 or 100 years old, and they always stink and they're half rotten. So
Well, that's too bad, because it's really nice for maritime use. It really is.
I'll be darned.
Great sales.
All right.
Okay, any other questions for Matt? Let him,
I think Heather's talking, but I can't hear her if she is. Heather, I think you're muted.
Yeah, she's muted.
Hello.
there you are, Heather.
Yes, I have a question for the sheriff. Do you have any training programs for your potential dispatchers
Yes, we
that you
do.
would recommend?
Well, one
Are
of the
those
most,
on your website?
one of the most important things that we have is you have to be able to type and enter data while listening. We've had a couple of people, believe it or not, we used to have a radio man from the Coast Guard who could type as fast as what a person could put out Morse code, and he was absolutely amazing. And he was able to shift that over to being able to listen to people talk, and he could type everything that they said, just like a stenographer. Now, you don't have to be that good, but almost all of our dispatchers have that. But what we like to do is we like to start the training the moment that they walk in the door and get them used to listening to the radio before we combine being able to enter data with it. And so one of the most important things that you have to have is pretty good hearing. I would not do well in the dispatch center. I've got one ear that gave up on me a while back. But those guys, they hear, they enter data, and they get the information out quickly and clearly. And we have a training program that starts the moment you walk in the door. And in about 16 weeks, about 4 months, you have moved into this area where you can work by yourself with a supervisor. And then after about 6 months, you'll work day shift, because we've got plenty of coverage usually on day shift because we have the biggest call volume. And then eventually after a year or two, you can start working into those nights when there's just 1 or 2 people on. So,
Well, that's great that you don't need a prior certificate
no.
to for that. That's really great. I'll be recommending it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Sounds like we're good, Matt.
All right. I thought I was starting to lose some weight there, and so I'm going to fix that and go home and have supper. You folks take care, and thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Attending, Sheriff Matt. Okay, anybody else from law enforcement attending? How about anybody else from the county? Would Garrett James from Office of Emergency Services or Travis like to speak at this point?
Sure,
Anything?
I'll give a quick update for OES.
Okay, Garrett, thanks.
Just for everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Garrett James. I'm the acting Office of Emergency Services Coordinator. I just wanted to say hello, remind everyone that even though we had a little bit of rain, it's still fire season, so burning is still legal and all that stuff. So be careful out there and safe. And when we do get into the rain seasons, everyone, drive safely and all that stuff as well. So thank you for having me today, and we can go over to Travis. Thanks.
Okay. Welcome, Travis. Anything new on your end?
Hey, everybody. Travis Kilmer. I'm with the Disaster Recovery Office. I don't really have anything new and specific to Gualala or the South Coast tonight. I wasn't here last month, so I just wanted to come check out the meeting, see what's going on in Gualala. But if anybody has any disaster recovery related questions or things like that, I can answer any questions. Otherwise, I'm just happy to be here and listen.
Okay. And then who else do we have?
I have a question for Travis.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, Travis, how are things going with the grant money that the county got for the EV charging infrastructure that you're going to put in place for the county fleet?
It's still moving along. I think we're still in the process of getting all the paperwork signed. But it's definitely moving forward. I can try and get a better update for you for next month's meeting with specific timelines and things. But I know that it is progressing, but we haven't started breaking ground on anything yet, but it's moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Travis.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Anybody else? Let me see. Lance, are you from the county? I forget now.
No, I'm not. I'm with the Meyer project.
You're with the Meyer project. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, then, so we've completed that phase of our agenda. Why don't we go on to our permit applications, okay? First on the docket here is CDP 2021-0031, Ritterman and Associates. We have who in attendance for that one?
Me, Tara Jackson with Wind Coastal Planning and Biology.
Okay, Tara, usually we'll let the applicant speak first. We did hear this once before, and we did give it our advisory recommendation. We approved it, I believe, but there has been a change, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So the only change that to the project description is the project is now being proposed for a phasing, and that is 2 phases. The first phase being drilling a test well, and then the second phase being contingent upon the amount of water that the test well produces. So should the test well produce a sufficient amount of water to accommodate a single family residence, then phase 2 can move forward, which is the construction of the 774 square foot residence. As you may recall from the previous meeting, there is also a spring on the property. And at this point in time, the applicant is still working through verification that they have rights and access to that spring. So the water usage on the property might be both a well as a spring, but without really having enough information about the spring, it's become imperative to go forward with drilling a test well, which will eventually also, should it produce sufficient water, be converted to a production well to serve the proposed single family residence.
Okay. That CDP was visited by myself and Don Hess. The spring parcel, as I call it, on Gypsy Flat Road there, that is part of the greater parcel, which belongs to the Ritterman and Associates, right? Or is that a separate legal parcel?
So with the spring, and I apologize, I'm standing in for Amy Nguyen. Okay. She's the lead on this project.
Right.
So from my understanding, the spring itself is actually on a different parcel. Right. It's just that there may be deeded access to it.
Okay.
As I stated, it's still a little vague, and that's the impetus for getting this well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw where the well, I think there's a little flag marking there where the well is proposed, right close to the Gypsy Flat Road there, but yet off the easement, I think.
Yes.
How far away is that from the proposed septic system?
It is definitely it's 100 feet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
There's the big valley between there and the proposed septic system, right?
Yes.
Okay. No, I didn't have any other questions. It's just like an amendment to the current CDP that we've approved. So unless other council members have any questions.
I have a concern.
What's that?
It's been bothering me for a couple of years now. And it has nothing to do with this CDP as such. It has to do with drilling wells. We've had a moratorium for so long, and no one can get a new water meter through the local Gualala North
Okay,
Gualala Water Company.
Melissa, could I interrupt? Would you mind bringing that up when we get to that topic under Water Ad Hoc Committee? Would you mind? Because that's this is definitely not specific to the Ritterman and Associates CDP, right?
It just has to do with wells.
Right.
Water.
Okay.
Okay. if you-
That area is not served, to my knowledge, by the water district anyway, so that,
I know, that's why I'm concerned, is because the only way anyone can get a new house is to drill a well. How many wells do we have? What state is our aquifer in?
mhm.
Do we need a moratorium on wells yet?
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
know
think-
the valley has dropped like 3 feet because the wells of the aquifer has been so depleted. What's our aquifer like? I even went online to the federal websites looking at the geological surveys, trying to find something out about the aquifer that we're living over. And
Mhm.
obviously I don't know how to look for it or what to look for. I just know I want to find it. Okay.
It's an important topic, Melissa, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's even more important on the next CDP, which is something that you and Kevin walked, right, and visited.
No, we'll get to that when we get to.
That's an even more pressing one. But anyway, Heather, Tara, what are you looking at? You need to get at least a gallon per minute. Is that correct?
Or half a gallon per minute with water storage on site.
And I looked at the site plan, but I forgot. There were storage tanks proposed on the subject property, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's where the water would go via a conduit from the well site. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Well, anybody else have questions on this specific CDP? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion, or I'll make a motion myself regarding this application. Anybody like to make a motion? Okay, then I'll make one. I recommend our advisory approval of Coastal Development Permit 2021-0021, which is to phase this project and to add the drilling of a well, exploratory well initially, I think, and then to eventually make it a production well. Anybody would like to second that motion?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, Don, thank you. Any further questions before we take a vote on this coastal development permit application? Okay, Melissa.
I'm going to abstain. I'm
Okay.
really so concerned that until I find out that there's no problem with our aquifer, I don't want to vote for anyone to vote drill a well.
Okay. Don,
Aye.
Henry, Dan,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
Robert, aye. Okay, I'll write a brief letter and then we'll move on to our next coastal development permit, which is 2021-0057. That is the Meyer application. This is a new application. It is on 38180 Ocean Ridge Road, Ocean Ridge Drive, actually. Coastal development permit to construct a single-story 640 square foot single family dwelling of wood frame, a new well, a septic system, grading for a driveway, and a permit for temporary use of a trailer coach for occupancy while constructing the dwelling. So council member Kevin Evans and Melissa Finley all walked this or visited this site. And then we have, is it Heather? I'm sorry.
Yes, and may I
Heather,
correct?
who is the
Dr.
applicant, and you are here to represent yourself, right? Or to tell us about your application.
Lance is also here. He's the building designer.
Okay,
and he
that's who
knows
that is.
more
Okay.
about it. But I would like to correct one thing that was revised, which is that the trailer is to be permanent as a family care unit.
So Robert,
Yeah,
if,
Kevin.
if it would be appropriate for Melissa and I to submit our finding on this, we've actually wanted to postpone this because, as Ms. Meyer just mentioned, they are changing their CDP from a temporary use of a trailer coach on site. They're looking at making it permanent, and it's currently going through the county, and they're reviewing that. So she will be modifying her CDP accordingly. So we were just going to put it on hold tonight and then bring it back, because Melissa and I have not had a chance yet until the CDP is finalized, that we would go out and visit with Lance and Heather on site. But since Heather and Lance are both here, they might be able to give us an update on their CDP, but we're not prepared to make any recommendation tonight.
Okay, I would tend to agree with that, Kevin and Melissa, since it is there is a change and we weren't really prepared to vote on that change. So if you, Heather and Lance, want to still tell us about the project, please feel free to.
Yes, I'd like to say that I would not be planning on growing any cannabis, and I'm very conservative with water, and the well that is proposed would not be needing to draw a lot of water, definitely not 2 cubic acres worth of water, which is what people were saying is going to start being taxed now in California. And I do rain catchment, and I use that to water my drought resistant garden. And so I would not be using a lot of water. I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and we submitted the revised form to include the family care unit for the trailer. And I want to be able to live in that while the cottage is being constructed, so that way I can afford the project. And then I would want it to stay there permanently as a living space.
When you complete that
It's a family care unit.
Go ahead. Who was that?
You want to make it a family care unit, Heather?
Yes, I mean, that's what I was told it needed
That's
to be called. Yeah. So.
Okay.
So Robert, I'll also add to that that Heather's been very kind to provide me the contact person as well with the county that's overseeing her CDP, and we've been communicating as well. So I think between Heather, Lance, the county, and Melissa and I will be happy to put it in a nice little package and present it to you in November.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need to vote on this, that we're going to table this till November?
I don't think we need to vote on it. I think it's just, yeah, we're just moving it forward till November.
Okay.
But I'll defer to Mary.
We will just agree to table it, okay? And then bring it back to us in November, the revised CDP.
It may
Okay.
be mutually agreed to, or you may vote to do that way and put it on the agenda, whichever
just-
way you prefer,
just-
Robert.
I think we'll mutually agree on that. That's
Very
fine.
well.
Thanks for bringing us up to speed on that, Kevin and Heather and Lance. Okay, anything else on that item?
I'm excited to go look at that because I'm a big fan of tiny houses. I
Okay.
live in a 400 square foot house.
So,
Wonderful. Yeah, it's gonna be a tiny one for sure.
Not as tiny as mine.
Yeah, not 400 square feet.
Good.
Okay. Then why don't we move on to our next permit application at CDP 2022-0039. SNL Farms West LLC 4TA. Is there anybody here on that project? I thought there was. No?
It's me. Hi.
Oh, yes. Okay. Gosh, tell me your name again. I'll find it
My
here.
name's Elora.
Elora, okay.
And I just wanted to make one correction. It's CDP 2021-0039.
Okay, we had 2022 for some reason, okay.
That's fine. So I just wanted to bring some clarity and some understanding to this project. This is an after the fact permitting to correct a violation that was received on this property, I want to say in 2019. And so I wanted to kind of clarify, since it seems like a lot of actions happening here. A lot of this is just to correct work that's already been done, including some of the removal of older greenhouses and the grading. We also did a site visit in June with the planner, and we're able to actually discover through planning and building and environmental health that the septic system is actually one septic system and not two, and was actually approved through the department legally through permitting. And so that septic system is not actually being removed. Additionally, so there's no actual grading work occurring. There is restoration, and that has already begun to take place with BMPs and reforestation of the tree line there. The grading permit is was done by an engineer after the fact, and they actually encouraged no additional grading. It just covered with the grading that had already occurred. As far as the structures on site, the 3 greenhouses have actually already been removed, and that was part of the notice of violation. And so the demo permits for those structures is to retroactively cover that, as well as the unpermitted electrical panel. We actually did some investigation with the planner as well as through planning and building, and they were able to find electrical permits for that. And so what the electrical that's going to be removed is there was some electrical from the panel to a greenhouse, as well as some plumbing. So those are the actually only things that still need to be removed from there. As well as there is an old dilapidated manufactured home that was a second dwelling on the property. There's some beautiful yurts from the 1970s and 80s that are on the property that we found a clean slate for, that are permitted and are legal. And so those are to remain as the single family dwelling. But the dilapidated home, manufactured home, is unlivable. It's actually, I encourage no one to go inside of it. It is falling apart. And so that is part of the CDP still, is to remove that from the property. And that's part of the trash and debris removal, is because portions of that are pretty much falling apart, and they are going to need to have a pretty big trash truck with like a dumpster thing to come in and break that apart and take it out. The RV trailer, again, and the shipping container, there's things that were done previously, and these are to retroactively correct that. But as far as the project description goes, the only real work that is being done in a future tense would be the removal of the manufactured home and some electrical and PVC plumbing pipe that extended from a legal well and electrical panel out to a greenhouse space.
Okay, Elora, thank you for bringing us up to speed on that. Dan Lewis and myself were assigned to this project. I did have a chance to just drive by it. I know the property from decades ago, okay? When it was on the market for sale, and I remember the yurts. And so everything looked pretty much the same to me, except for that big pad that was apparently graded, right? That right there, and the lower levels there.
Yeah, and that was terraced off. And so under the engineer grading plan, they went and they did make sure that that was to standard. So it doesn't need any more grading work.
What are those called when they try to prevent erosion? Those straw wattles that are around the whole outside of that pad area?
So that's part of the drainage and erosion control plan. We call them BMPs, which is your best management practices. And those have all been installed by a qualified biologist.
Okay, BMPs, that's what you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Is anybody living at the property at the present time, or?
Yeah, so Miss Fortier's niece,
Okay.
and her partner, they are living currently at the property in the
The
yurt.
main yurt, okay. And what is their water source?
They have a legal well. They actually have 2 legal wells on the site.
And a legal septic system, you were saying, right?
Yes, they have a legal septic system as
Okay.
well.
So the remediation is primarily for what now? The grading and the electrical and all that stuff that you were talking about?
Yeah, so the remediation was installation of drainage controls, and that was done by a qualified biologist. And they do not require any additional grading. They'd like to leave it as undisturbed as possible at this point. And so they said that it was done in a fashion that is actually up to grading code.
Mhm.
And so removal of the manufactured home,
Okay.
electrical wiring and plumbing to an old greenhouse space that the greenhouse is no longer present at, which was on top of that graded pad.
Mhm. Okay.
And so the greenhouse is gone at this point. And so the demo permits are to retroactively remove what is already gone.
Okay, and I did see some kind of a greenhouse there still, one.
At the bottom, yes. And so that's kind of the property owners deciding on whether or not to keep that one or not. It does meet the ag exempt 1,000 square feet, which is an allowable use as a veggie space if they want to continue doing that. It's currently sitting empty and it would need to be that's also part of the trash removal that will need to happen, is because the plastic from the previous, I want to say tenant, is still there, and it needs to be replaced if they're going to use it with that clear poly plastic, if they're going to use that for any vegetation space. Otherwise, it is included in the demo permit to remove it.
Okay. Okay, I don't really have any other questions. I don't know if anybody else on the council does. Hearing none. I guess I'll make a motion that I would recommend that you continue with the after the fact remediation, and that we as GMAC would give you our advisory approval on this CDP and what you're doing there. That would be my motion. Anybody would like to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Dan. Let's take a vote on that. Melissa,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
and Robert. I'm an aye. Okay, Elora, thank you for your presentation, and we'll get a letter off to the county on this, okay?
Thank you. I really appreciate your guys' time and review of this project. Have a great evening.
Okay,
You too.
You too. Bye-bye.
thank you.
Who
Okay,
will write
folks,
that letter?
it looks like I'm gonna be writing it,
Thank you.
okay? So let's move on, and looks like we're down to council matters. Do we have any old business? Anything left over from last month? Any, I'm probably behind a letter from last month, but I was gone for a while myself to Montana, so I'll double check that. On to 7B, Gualala Services Committee. That's Kevin, Dan, and myself. Kevin, I saw your letter in the ICO. That was good. Anything on the, okay, we've got 3 items here, or 2 items here, the Parkston report and the affordable housing report, not to mention the community survey. So where would you like to start?
Well, let me start with the really good news. And that is that the county, thanks to Don Hess and the Democratic group, local group, putting together a gathering at Bower Park. We were able to introduce our elected officials from the state and federal government to Bower Park. And so as a result of their visit there and the input from the public, and I guess some arm twisting from Mr. Hess, we got $2.2 million from the state, thanks to Assembly Member Jim Woods, that was allocated to the county of Mendocino to be used to address the improvements at Bower Park. and so that's great news. So one part of that, and I guess this is kind of tying into the parks report. One comment that was made is that the county is going to be doing an outreach program to seek input from the community as to what improvements they would like to see happen at Bower Park. And my question to GMAC is, would we like to continue the park ad hoc committee that was originally set up with Henry, myself, and Dan, Mr. Lewis, to go ahead and maybe identify a few people from the community to start the process of getting input from the community as what improvements we would like to see at Bower Park. So we would be a step ahead when the county does the official notice of community input. We'll already have a leg up on it, and we'll be able to provide some very valuable information to them. So that would be my thought tonight to you, Robert, because I know you can set up ad hoc committees, is if you'd like to reinstate the park ad hoc committee, and if we would like to add a public component to that.
So what I remember was that it was you and Henry initially, the Parks Committee, right?
And I think Dan volunteered.
Dan joined
at the time.
Okay.
And then I think it was the next meeting that we kind of sunsetted that committee, because then we went over to the community survey.
Right. Okay. And then we created the Gualala Services Committee at that point.
Correct.
So you're saying that the county is going to, okay, this $2 million is specifically earmarked for Bower Park from the state, right? But if the county has to administer it.
Correct.
Does that mean that we will see all 2 million or not?
2.2 million.
It's under the county's jurisdiction and management. So I really couldn't answer that question.
Okay, so it's not necessarily specifically for Bower Park. So I think, yes, I'm all for this committee and getting on it right away to make sure, because I remember what I read from your letter today, and you said that 2 million or 2.2 million for Bower Park may not even be enough for what Bower Park really needs.
Correct.
So I'd like to definitely make sure that we get all 2.2 million going towards improvements at Bower Park. That's my opinion.
Well, I think all $2.2 million will be earmarked for Bower Park, but there will be administrative costs that will be drawn from that by the county offices. So of that, yeah, we're going to be paying a lot of admin fees that will not go directly into Bower Park.
Do we know what kind of a potential percentage that would be?
No.
Yeah, we need a committee. Okay.
What is your thought on having maybe the council members, each one identify a person in the community that could also serve on that committee as well? Because I think the more eyes and ears we have and the input we have, the more valuable our response will be to the county when they're looking for community input.
Okay, and they have to be willing to serve on the committee, right? Okay, yeah. Then we get a lot more input. What the community needs are, whether it's tennis court or other items there, you know, I don't know that unless we hear from the community.
So would you like each council member, maybe for the November meeting, identify a member of the public to join in on that committee, that ad hoc committee?
We could all give the committee members ideas of who to talk to, or we could reach out as council members, provided we have the time, hopefully we do, to identify people in the community that would, you know, give input on what's needed. I think we should all try to do that, yes, but especially the committee members.
Mm-hmm.
Also reach out to the service people, you know, the Rotarians who were here tonight. the seroptimists, the whomever, you know, the Lions Club has been very active in getting you the surveys. Have them get their membership to maybe have one person on that committee, or have one person representing those committees. Go to the Chamber of Commerce and ask them for people, because all of those people serve the community, and would be 100 people anyway in those 3 clubs, and in the maybe 150 in the Chamber of Commerce. So that's a lot of people that you can reach out to immediately.
I agree. Any other council members have some input on this?
I think it's a brilliant idea. I'd like to talk to a few of the neighbors of the park up there that I know who live on either Ocean Ridge or on the Ridge Road right there adjacent to the park. I know a few people up there that I could talk to.
Okay. So, and you're willing to be part of the committee, right, Dan?
Of course.
Okay, great. So, when Henry gets back in November, you, Kevin and Henry will primarily take this on, but we other council members will also see who we can reach out to and speak to. Okay.
Yeah, I'll volunteer Henry for this.
He was part of it to begin with, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
well, we should run it by him, I guess. But Kevin, I'm just looking at the article in the paper, and it was basketball court you mentioned, community room, nature trail. Remind me what the par course is.
The par course is an exercise course where it has different stations.
Oh, yeah.
So one station you'll do push-ups, another station you'll do sit-ups, and yeah, it's a exercise course with aerobic and physical exercise.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was an avid tennis player for years, and I loved going up to Bauer Park. It was such a nice atmosphere. So anything I can do to help. I know the tennis courts will be an expensive thing, but maybe I can do a little research on that part. I would love to see that available for the youth again, and older folks that can't get access to Sea Ranch tennis courts. So, I mean, we've got the Point Arena tennis courts at the high school, but so yeah, anything we can all do, especially as council members and as a community, to make sure we see a lot of this money or most of this money go towards a real revamping of Bauer Park would be great. I worry about, yeah, we got some money now, but where's it all going?
Well, and the other question that's going to be posed to the county is that once we fix everything up, are they going to be able to provide the money to maintain it? Or are we going to, in a few years, be back to where we are now? So that's a huge question for the county. Is there money in their budget, or do they foresee money in the future in their budget that will help maintain the park?
So,
well, can't some of this $2.2 million be sort of put aside for ongoing maintenance in the years ahead?
No, I think
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I think it's specifically earmarked and can only be used for repairs. I don't think it can be placed in a reserve to pay for maintenance down the road. That'll be
okay. Well,
something
maybe we can find that out for sure one way or another. But the other thing I'm wondering about is whether or not anybody has a absolutely complete list of each and every type of facility that is in that park, the state of that facility, and then maybe the community then somehow could determine priorities. I don't know how far 2.2 million would go. It sounds like a lot of money, but will it fix up everything? I don't know. So in that case, then maybe we should encourage a move towards prioritizing certain facilities over others.
And I would encourage the council members to take a look at the park assessment report that was done, I think in 2019. And if you need a copy of it, I think I've got a copy of it that I can forward to you. But
Yeah,
it's
that would be great if
specific-
you could forward it to everybody.
Yeah,
That
it
would be- yeah,
specifically identifies all of the specific apparatus and infrastructure of the park. And it gives it a rating of good, poor, or I forgot what the other one, or good, fair, and poor were the three ratings of the different areas. So yes, I'll be happy to forward that to, actually, I'll send it to Mary, and then Mary can send it out to the council members.
Okay, great.
And if we, and I guess if we have enough bandwidth or whatever, maybe we can even put the park assessment report on our GMAC website so the public can look at it as well.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
If Don and Henry could do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
So who in the meantime, will it be the committee, the Parks Committee that will be the liaison with the county in the meantime?
Yeah, I've reached out to Supervisor Williams, but we'll kind of see their direction. The county really hasn't made a determination how they're going to set up this community outreach. So,
Okay.
but I've offered GMAC to be a local source for them should they need it.
Okay.
Robert?
Yeah, Dan, go ahead.
I don't know if it already exists. I've never heard of a Friends of Bower Park organization.
Wow.
And I was wondering if, looking ahead on this thing, if we couldn't turn this citizen and GMAC member organization that we're forming as a committee into something like that as an ongoing, perhaps nonprofit organization. I mean, Friends of Gualala River does some wonderful things. And, you know, I think they're a 501c3 nonprofit public benefit corporation. And if we could get something like that going, that would be another way that we could have that as an arm of fundraising, among other things, and for volunteers to do hands-on stuff and maybe help the county carry that load with local sweat and wallet.
I think that's a great idea, especially when we get beyond the repairs and into the maintenance, right?
Exactly.
What do you think, Kevin?
No, I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Well, good. Man, it's just amazing how far you guys have come that tackled this project. I think Kevin did from the very get-go, and look what's happened. I think it's a real kudos to you guys for doing this.
Thank you.
So,
So if with the council's, okay, I'll jump right into the community survey.
go ahead.
Unfortunately, Henry wasn't able to join us this evening, but he does have a nice pie chart that has taken all of the responses and put it into a pie chart based on the questions, and also has identified all of the input that people have listed under their comments. So he's got a really concise report that he was going to share tonight, but unfortunately he's not available. But let me give you some of the highlights. We've had 57 people respond so far.
Okay.
Of that, 64% of them have been Gualala residents. 28% have been Anchor Bay residents, and 7% the Sea Ranch.
Can you say those percentages again, Kevin?
64%
Gualala,
28% Anchor Bay,
okay,
and 7% the Sea Ranch.
okay, thanks.
In regards to paying taxes in Gualala, 98% people said they do, and 2% said they don't. So that that means one person either doesn't pay taxes or maybe misunderstood the question. Under the question number 3, do you feel your taxes should adequately fund the maintenance of Bauer Park and other services? 87% said yes, they feel that their taxes should pay for those services. 9% said no, they shouldn't pay for the services. And 3% had no opinion. The interesting one, and we kind of anticipated the answer on this. How effective is your county board of supervisors? 75% said not effective. 18% had no opinion, and 7% said they were effective. And I don't have the breakdown as to the numbers, how many people, I just have percentages. The other one was how effective are our local boards, and GMAC was one of them. 46% said not effective. But what was interesting is 27% had no opinion at all, and 27% said effective. So I take that as 54% think that we're doing our job and 46% really don't. So that's good in this day and age of government. That's not bad to have a 54% approval rating.
Mm-hmm. Especially volunteers, yeah.
Are you concerned about the current and future condition of our services in our community? 96% said yes, they are concerned about the future and current status of our services. 2% said no, they're not concerned, and 2% said they have no opinion. Here's another one that was really interesting. Are you willing and are able to pay more taxes, assessments, or fees that would stay locally to improve the level of service and infrastructure in your community? 75% said that they would pay more taxes and were willing. 12% said that they would not pay more taxes, and 4% had no opinion. So it sounded like people were willing to do what it takes to maintain the services in our community. So that was very rewarding. And then the next question, would you support creating a local government if it returns a portion of the tax dollars you currently pay to support Bauer Park and other services? 84% said yes, they would support creating a more local government. That could come in 2 forms. That either can come in a special district or it could come in the form of incorporation. But it was interesting that 84% were thinking that, yes, we should do something locally. 9% said no, that we shouldn't create more government, and 7% said no opinion. And last but not least, are you a registered voter in Mendocino or Sonoma County? 89% said yes, they were registered voters, and 11% said no, they weren't. So the survey is out there. We're getting responses. I encourage the council members to reach out to friends, neighbors, or anybody else you may know to get more responses, because I think this is going to be a really valuable report to submit to our Board of Supervisors, both in Sonoma and Mendocino County, and let them know what's important for the residents and the need for the highest level of service possible. So and if anybody on the committee has any other input or any questions.
I would like to have copies of that, which I don't have. I have 12 of them that have come in by mail. And I'd like to know where I could go to then print those out, because I have a folder that I'm going to put in with the GMAC stuff that is only surveys, so that it will be for the record and for the archives.
Well, Mary, I think it appears now that the majority, I would almost say 2/3 of the responses that we have received were online.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, so I think that that's going to be a report generated by Henry that will be a twofold. One, it will list the pie chart of all the percentages of responses, but then he has another sheet as well that will also list all of the comments from those that submitted. So yeah, we will get that to you in a hard copy form.
Or tell me where I can do that, and then I can download each one and put it under their name, etc. But also to put it into the folder.
Sure. Let me talk to Henry on that, how we can separate those responses into individual forms, or if we have to literally go back and take hard copies and just copy that on each survey and get you the hard copy that way. But we can do it.
Well, I know that you're going to be deleting stuff that is old, and maybe in 6 months, this information may be deleted or gone because it's old information. And I would like to have hard copies of it so that in 2 or 3 years, someone might be able to come back and say, okay, the county's not upkeeping the park, and 70% of the population wanted it upkept, and here are the records to show that.
Okay.
I think it would be a good idea to do that, to say the BOS is not doing anything, and 70-some% people think that they're, not helping us. So I think it's a good thing to come up and say, okay, we have hard copies on this, we can prove it.
Great point. So we can do that. I'll work with Henry and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Robert or Dan, do you have any other comments regarding the survey or?
Yeah, we're going to keep the survey going for at least till the end of the year, right? Or another couple of months, or what were you anticipating there?
Well, both are there. A couple months will take us to the end of the year.
Yeah, okay.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reach out to as many groups as I can to get people to submit surveys. I actually attended one board of directors meeting for one of our safety services. And as I was giving my brief 3-minute presentation, 3 of the board members filled out their surveys right there.
Right there, okay.
So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of making people aware of it. And I'm hoping to get on KWOW or KTIDE and see if I can make a pitch there. We did put the one notice in the paper about the survey being available online. So I think with everything that we're doing, we're getting a consistent response. So we might be getting 5, 7, 10 responses a week. So it would be ideal by the end of the year if we had 100 responses, then that would be something that I feel comfortable that we as GMAC could send out a report to both Board of Supervisors, but also to LAFCO.
Well, I saw it was mentioned in your letter again today, so that was great, I thought.
Thank you.
Anybody further comments? Dan or anybody else?
No, not for me.
All right, Kevin, thanks for your report on that. 57 surveys, that's good. Anything on the affordable housing report?
No, unfortunately, that's taken a back seat.
Okay, that'll come back up next month. Okay, let's move on to the GCAP committee update. We've all been in different locations this month, so we didn't come together as a committee. But I did do some follow-up with Caltrans to see what was going on. They're working on things at the moment. Also, what is it called? The CTC, California Transportation Committee, will be meeting this next week in Santa Barbara. So that, if you recall, I sent MCOG a letter on the active transportation program, the ATP application to MCOG. That was back in June. So they will be voting on that monies, on those grant monies at the CTC meeting this coming week. So let's hope and pray for the best on that. Other than that, not much has occurred since the August 15th MCOG meeting. So that would be the GCAP committee update. Anything on electric vehicle charging station? That would be Donald.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to report. There's been no new information about how far along California is in, procuring the federal funds for expansion of the EV charging network in the state. So perhaps the next month or two, I'll have some more information.
Okay, Don. Thank you. How about on the telecommunications committee? With Henry being gone? And you being gone?
Okay, yeah. The only thing I have to report is that we have changed the registrar for our domain name to Network Solutions.
Right.
So it's no longer with MCN. And the next step is going to be to download a copy of our website and move it to a new provider. And in the meantime, everything's just going to work as it is now.
Right.
Once we get that moved to a new provider, then we can start working on significantly modifying the website to modernize it, make it look better, and also maybe offer some features that our current website does not. So that's in the works, but that's going to take a little time to complete. But the first step is done, and that was pretty straightforward and did not cause any disruption in our website operations.
Does that mean we can possibly get a greater bandwidth too, or how does that work?
Well, my hope, of course, is that once we move our website to a new provider and they have all the services updated, which MCN does not, that our WordPress website requires, we should see performance improvement.
Okay.
But that's not going to be until we upgrade entirely the website and then migrate to the new provider.
And you're keeping track of all your invoices to date, right?
Yeah, really, for the time being, there's only like a $10 invoice I had to pay. That was just a transfer fee. I think the first year is free for the registrar service. And then I think I signed up for 8 years, for a little over $100. I forget what it was, but I don't think they bill us for that until the end of the first free year.
Okay, that's
So
right.
I haven't had to pay for that.
Okay. All right, thanks for those two committee reports. Any questions from the council members on any of that?
Oh, you know what? Robert, I have a question. When I tried to log in tonight and I logged in under the Zoom number, the Zoom ID number on our agenda, it said it was an invalid number.
So then what did you do? Just use the link?
Yeah, so then I went to where it says click here, so I went to the Gualala website and did all that. And that's how we got in. So
that is the most straightforward way to get in. Always usually the easiest, but
sure. But if the public looks,
I'll look into that and see what the problem might be in terms of just using the meeting code.
I used the link on the agenda
Yeah,
I know.
that link on the
Yeah,
agenda is
that's-
alive and well.
That's
You just
the
click on it.
recommended way, and
Okay.
that's never going to change because
Yeah,
we've got a recurring meeting set up. So
and I put that
normally
at the
we-
top of the date
yeah, that-
list too, for the year and a half, or where I had 31 for November rather than 3. And I apologize for that, but that one, it's right at the top, and you just click on that, it'll take you right to the meeting.
yeah, it's just the tiny URL GMAC monthly link, and that's not going to change.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
sure.
Okay, any other questions? All right, Don, thank you. Enjoy your time there still. Going on to the Water Ad Hoc Committee. That's Melissa, Don, and I. I'll just say that our latest September 18th rain event, it demonstrated once again how valuable it would be for the health of the Gualala River and the Gualala community to have off-stream storage in place in the form of a water reservoir. As it is, violation of the North Fork bypass flow requirements could be eased if we could capture the water from these significant events. So it just goes to show the necessity of the water reservoir has been demonstrated over and over through the years. And I think we really, we'd have no gauge on what the weather's going to bring in the future other than probably less and less rain. And so we need to find a way to get that reservoir built and be able to capture water when there are these significant rain events. I happened to be on the road while the rain event happened, but I heard it was close to 4 inches.
That's what the resident manager told me. His rain gauge showed was 4 inches right here.
Yeah.
Had 4.5.
Okay. And if you look at the
Wow.
USGS, if you look at the USGS website and you see the big spike of rain from the water we received, then right away it goes back down to below the bypass flow requirement, which is the 4 cubic feet. It goes right back down to within a couple days to the 2 cubic feet, whatever it is right now. So we are we're still in the middle of a huge drought. So we've got to keep working on this as a committee and seeing what we can come up with. So anything else from Melissa and Dawn on that?
Well, Robert, the only way we could get federal money to get a reservoir would be if we had a public water system.
Right.
What can we do? Will we have to go the same route that was taken to get the sewer made public? What are our options?
Yeah, the sewer
To have public water.
the sewer got created from scratch. So we right now we have a private entity that owns a water company. So they own
I thought it was a private that owned the sewer, and someone had to be sued to get it to.
The sewer got started, the sewer system got started in 1987 through 1992. It was through the federal government, through a Clean Water Act grant of 9 million, and then the local community raised $1 million for the total project costs of 10 million. We formed a local assessment district, and we raised the 1 million through the property tax rolls. The water issue is a little different because it is in private hands. So yeah, how do we get either our community services district to engage in possible purchasing the water company, or have a willing seller of the water company? We don't know how we can do that so that we can take advantage of grant monies out there for a public.
Could a grant money be obtained to purchase the water company and make it public?
Yeah, you still would need a willing seller.
Yeah, but first we, it doesn't matter if the seller's willing or not if you've don't have the money.
Right, and you'd
first-
have to come up with a value and assess it and then appraise it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that would be something that maybe a committee like us could look into.
Yeah, we need to find out if a grant money could be could be obtained to purchase it.
Mhm.
Not whether there's any there, but if just that's a possible option when
that
getting
exists.
grant money.
Well, Dawn and you and I should meet on that at some point.
Yep.
As the Water Ad Hoc Committee.
Let's do that.
Okay. You agree, Don? Okay, he might not.
Yeah,
be
I
with us.
think that's I just had to unmute myself.
Yep.
Yeah, we should get together as a community committee, maybe this month or next month at the latest, and discuss something like that, and then bring that back to the council.
Okay. Let's do it. Let's try to do that. Okay, then we've heard from the committee on that. G is drafting a letter regarding THPs. I have nothing on that. I'm still not sure, other than when I contacted who was it? The Redwood Coast Land Conservancy. I'd contacted somebody a month or two ago, but I haven't done anything on that any further. So we could table that or continue that on the agenda for the coming months. So where are we at here on the agenda? Do we have anything else? We have permit. We don't have any CDPs, Mary, correct?
None,
None.
not
why
at
don't
this point, no.
Why don't we go on to your report then?
I worked 14.675 hours in September. Materials were $4.26 for a total of $260.93. I was not very active at all in September. It was really a quiet month.
Okay. And
Hey, Robert,
yeah, Kevin.
I have two comments under council member comments. One is a question, is there any direction from the county as to if and when GMAC will ever be able to meet again in person, or if we will continually meet through Zoom for, any particular length of time? So that's my first question. And the other is a plug for the Lions lighted truck parade that's coming Saturday after Thanksgiving. So
Oh, great.
letting everyone know in the community that we're gonna have lighted truck parades, 6 p.m. on Saturday. Unfortunately, I don't know the date. Mary, do you have that?
It's usually the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Right, but do you know the date?
Oh, yeah, November the 26th.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So Saturday, November 26th will be the official lighted truck parade.
That's always a great community event. That'll be great to hear that that's going to happen again. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to look into that with the Zoom meetings, Kevin. Maybe I can find out something by next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from anyone in our audience or council members? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Oh, looks like Heather has a question.
Heather?
You're muted, Heather. You need to unmute.
Okay.
Hello. I just wanted to comment that at the beginning of your meeting, you had somebody who was talking about making signage for Gualala, and I wondered if anyone would want to consider making signage, especially in the Bower Park area, to identify the very overgrown amount of French broom in the area. And I've been meeting with one of the RCRC members, Donna Sienna, and removing some of that French broom, invasive French broom from the Bower Park area. And maybe if you were going to have signage put up, you could have a plant identification, invasive plant identification, and that can help locals to remove it.
Okay. Thank you, Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, would you be willing to give us a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, will anybody second that?
I'll second that.
Dan or, okay, let's give it to Don this time. Okay, Melissa,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Kevin,
Aye.
and Robert. Aye. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Don.
Thank
have a
you,
good night
guys.
still.
Okay.
Thank you, Heather.
Night, everybody. Oh,
Yeah.
Robert, can you hold on for a second?
sure
See you
can.
later, Heather.
I'll
Good
hang on,
night,
Don.
everybody.
Good night,
Okay,
Melissa.
bye,
Good night,
guys.
Heather. Good night,
Nice to see
Mary.
you
Good night,
guys.
Kevin.
Take
Good night,
care.
Dan.
Okay, Robert, all I want to say is that it may be a few days, as a matter of fact, it may be a week before I can get this. Wait a second, I'm going to stop the meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, no, I'm just going to stop the recording. Hold on.
Stop the recording, yeah.